So, this is a video that I shot this winter in Sweden as I was shearing some Gotland sheep month and a half before lambing time. Uh, I thought I'd publish it with a little bit of voiceover to explain more or less what's going on and what goes on through my head as I'm working with these animals. I don't know, it may be of help to someone who has the same breed. Uh, Mostly because they have certain peculiarities that I only found working with them. Of course, I'm only speaking out of my experience, and I don't know if there are any other breeds which share the same traits. I imagine there must be. Anyhow, the most important thing to know about this kind of job when you're working with prelamb sheep, as in the sheep that will give birth soon, is that you're working with animals that have their stomachs full. Every lamb takes up some space in the stomach, plus you have all of the amniotic fluids. So you can't really work in the same way you would in the summer or in the fall. At least that's how I approach it. You have to be very technical about it, and you can't use too much strength. You can't push down on the stomach. There may be miscarriages if you're too rough. So in this occasion especially, I try to be extra nice to them. They are not always nice back, but that's just the life of a shearer generally. I personally think. So that's the first thing. You will be working with animals if you're doing this kind of job. You will be working with animals that are not easy to work with because of the fact that you can't bend them. You can't. Your control over them is a lot harder to get. It's not as good. It's not as safe. So the placement of your feet is really important. And also, it's really important not to anger the animals. You have to be gentle, you have to be careful, and then things will work out fine. Um, but maybe you can also see it from the video. It's not exactly that easy. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which you may have noticed as I was shearing the belly, is that there is a big blood vessel that runs down the belly straight down to the teats, to the udder, and that vessel becomes enlarged as the closer it gets to lambing time. That is to provide the udders with blood so that they can produce milk, and it's really easy to damage that. Of course, it's not a life-threatening injury, but it's one that you want to avoid. If it happens, then you can always use a little plier to keep it shut, and then it will stop bleeding eventually. But it's really important to be aware of this. That's the very first thing to know when you're working on the stomach. Maybe you will be able to see it with this one I'm sharing right now. It should be right about now. And let's see. Nah, you can't see it on this one, but it was pretty clear. You could see it on the first one. So it's really important that you use your free hand, as you see I'm doing here, protecting the others, and stretching out the skin of the belly. It's very important. I can't stress that enough. Be careful with your blows and really stretch the skin, because otherwise you might end up ripping the skin. And since that blood vessel is exactly underneath the skin, there's nothing in between, it's really easy to nick it. So it's really important to be careful. And while I'm on the subject of being careful, I can say this one is not exactly happy to be around me, and that's also because sorry for the interruption, but as you see, this one is not exactly happy to work with me because of the fact that the stomach is full with lambs. You have basically again this hard the added inconvenience of having to work with animals with full bellies. So yeah, it's a bit more demanding, this kind of work. Anyways, as I was saying, since I'm on the subject of what to do, how to be careful, like how careful you have to be when working with these animals. Uh, Here's the funny thing, or the interesting thing about Gotland sheep, and that is that their wool changes dramatically from spring to autumn and vice versa. That's because it actually has an extra layer of wool during the winter to keep the animal warm. Um, it's actually an extra coat of wool that grows closest to the skin, and then is shed in the spring. Which means that when you shear them in the fall, it's absolutely beautiful. You don't need to think about anything. It's really easy to get through. You can use a comb, a wide comb with a short bevel, and you're going to get a very good result. And then you'll be surprised because you come back in the spring, or as in this case in the winter, and it's really hard. It's really the blows don't go through as easily, and you inconvenience the animals really easily. They get upset with you, and and you'll be left wondering what's going on. The wool also behaves completely different and feels a lot harder. Harder is possibly the best way I can describe this. And the explanation is very simple. It's because there is twice as many wool hairs in the winter. And it's important to know about this because I choose different combs according to the different times of the year. As I said, in the fall I'll be using a wide comb with a short bevel, but here I'm using a tight comb with a long bevel, um, and that adds to the difficulty of shearing these animals in the winter with the full bellies, with the wool that is not exactly working with you. Of course, it's still doable, and if you have a sharp gear and you know how to use it, as you can see, you can still do it pretty well. Uh, but it's a completely different job, a totally different job than what you would be expecting or what you would be doing in the autumn. At least that's my experience, and I thought it's interesting to show, anyways, because every day you're out there working, things are different. At least up here in Scandinavia, where people have small flocks, every flock is different, and sometimes you'll be left wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why is this not working well? Well, in this case, what's wrong is the wool is something else than what you might have expected. Um, and it's interesting. It's important for me to know what it is that I'm working with and how to get the best results. So yeah, another one is done, and she's going. Um, so yeah, that was a little bit of information going into how to shear this kind of breed. Um, Technique is always on your side, and learning to know what kind of wool you're working with is also always on your side. Uh, right tools for the right job, and also knowing that the same animal can be different in different times of the year is also very important. While I'm on the subject, sometimes in the spring I'll be asked to shear full wool animals, and the lanolin quantity, like they have way too much lanolin in the wool, so it's impossible to work with them. Um, and then I'm left to try and scramble and see what I can do. Sometimes it's doable, sometimes it isn't. Um, so, to my mind, one of the nice things about the job is that you get to learn so much about different breeds and oh, no, this one isn't a mean one. There was a group of these when I was working out there that were pretty mean. They're really quick. The big bellies don't help in giving you an advantage in handling them. I know how to use them. Anyways, as I was saying, one of the nice things about the job is that you're out and you learn new things, and all the animals are different, and all the individuals are different, and there are different characters and characteristics to the different animals. So it's important to learn how to work with them. Yeah, I'll just wait until I finish shearing this one. It's always fun to look. I can see what kind of mistakes I'm doing and how to do better and so on. How to avoid ridges and second cuts. Oh yeah, a thing I didn't say at the start is these were shorn at the very end in the fall. So I shored those 6 months prior to this, to when this video was taken. The camera work is not optimal, but okay. I just had my telephone on the ground, so there isn't. Yeah, well, that's all right. Maybe I can try and make a video in the fall when I go back and share these again, and show the difference in how they handle. So yeah. Oh, and this is another important thing. Considering the fact that these animals have the extra coat, the extra layer of wool, this is, I guess, one of the reasons why you want to shear them in the winter. Because when they shed, the extra hair will be tangled in the fleece, and will therefore bring down the quality of the fleece if you shear them in the fall. So yeah, you make sure that there's a better, that the quality of the fleece improves if you get rid of this. And it's done. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. See you next time.